Hello, Nation! Welcome to the Haven Nation Show, your destination for all things Lock Haven Athletics. I'm Nicholas Severini, coming to you live from the Bear Country Studios' basement in Avis, Pennsylvania, with my co-host Ryan States. Ryan, welcome back. It's been through week one. We're in the fourth episode of this one. I am, funny enough, and I did not mean to do this. Third episode out of 4, I'm wearing this exact shirt.
Nice.
And I thought about driving 20 minutes to Williamsport to change, but we got a one-take Drake it, and if I went back to my apartment, I probably wouldn't come back. So, we're here.
That's a long drive.
We're going to keep the outfit going, and the Lock Haven Bald Eagle football team is officially 1-0 when I'm wearing this.
Yes, they are.
In the next podcast. So, you know what? Maybe I just might need to wear it until they lose.
Some people have, good luck shirts, good luck underwear. That's your good luck shirt right there.
It's a good luck polo. We're coming to you here from Avis. Busy week for us. We had Jersey Shore, by the way, for those of you just tuning in, skip 5 minutes in. We'll get to the Lock Haven stuff. This is always the part of the show where we just talk about where we're at currently in the season, because this is a grind of a season. You're really getting your first taste of it. Friday, Jersey Shore, demolishing Sealands Grove. We had more views on that video than any other live show this season.
Yep.
We're over 3,500 now in everyone, which is above average compared to last season for all 3 broadcasts. So we're killing it there. Lock Haven football killing it as well. Great first broadcast from my view, Ryan. We're going to get to obviously all the happenings, but we've been very busy. Been a busy couple of days, but I think we're in a really good standing right now.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a turnaround from Friday night, get home, immediately go to bed, wake up around mid-afternoon, start getting ready to go for football, and then for me personally, get home from football, do your writing, go to bed about 12:30, wake up at 4 in the morning to go to Walmart from 5 to 2 on Sunday. So really busy weekend for the both of us. You, I know, obviously had Bucknell soccer yesterday as we record this on Monday. So yesterday was Sunday. You had Bucknell soccer you were doing. So an eventful week for the both of us, I'd say, but a fun week.
I don't know how you have the wherewithal to write after doing a broadcast.
It's hard.
I know that maybe it's a little bit different, but it's really not. I mean, you're still the color guy. You're probably not talking as much, but you're still focusing as much. You're taking so much mental aspect into the game. Quick story. I did Montoursville football last year.
Yeah.
And John Girardi, excellent human being, excellent writer, excellent editor, nothing but kind to me. Nothing but kind to you. I mean, we've talked about him off the air. Great guy. He wanted me to do a Montoursville recap against Shikellamy last season on the road at Schick.
Yep.
Now, it's not a long road trip. I think it's less than 45 minutes there. It was just past Lewisburg, so about 40 minutes, I'd say. And I straight up told him I can't do it. I was so out of it, and I was like, oh, my God, I have to do Lock Haven the next day. I have to do all this, that I was just like, John, I'm sorry, I can't do it.
I think that is the one thing that if you have never done commentary on a broadcast before, you don't really understand, is that you're watching the game and you're talking about the game so much. By the time the game's over, you can't remember almost anything.
Oh, not at all.
I can't remember 90% of what happened. There's a lot of times where, because I'll go back on the PSAC Sports Digital Network and watch some of the game again.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored, correct.
But just the way you said it sounded perfect.
It really does. I didn't think about that. But, it's one of those things where you're so focused on every play that by the time the game's over, you don't remember. You remember a handful of things that happened, and that's it.
I think you remember the flashpoints. You remember the big ones.
Yeah, you remember the touchdowns, the big first downs or whatever, but that 2nd and 10 in the middle of the second quarter is about the farthest thing possible from your memory.
Which stinks because I don't think, for me, I forget some of those plays.
Yeah.
And they can really turn the tide on the game. I had to rewatch a lot of the game to get notes ready for this. And there were a couple of factors, and we'll talk about it later, that I had no idea. But, yeah, busy weekend. I was sick during that game.
You were.
And I had a couple of friends, and my dad even tell me, that last quarter, you sounded like you were struggling a little bit. But it was a very struggling last quarter, just like the Lock Haven football team.
You have a really innate ability, and I don't know how you do it. Because, you have that, the difference between your normal voice and like the broadcaster voice.
Yeah.
Like it kind of picks up an octane. I have heard you when you you have lost your voice almost entirely. And when you go into that announcer's voice, you can't tell half the time. Like, I don't know how you do that. It's incredible because, like, I don't do that kind of announcer's voice, but you have such a way of, like, no matter how you're feeling, what you're doing, once you kick on, it's like an alter ego almost. Once you kick that on, it's just go.
Well, you're speaking from the diaphragm when you're broadcasting. So, like, this is me broadcasting,
Yeah.
and this is
Yeah.
me. You know, there's a slight difference. I guess it uses a different part of your – I don't know. I don't know the lyrics of it. So, anyway, I do that. Like, 2 more minutes before we get into it. I do that. I have Bucknell soccer the next day against Old Dominion. And can I tell you, I never root for a 0-0, but I don't want it to be crazy.
Yeah.
Final score, Bucknell 4, Old Dominion 2.
All right.
Was that score. I completely lose it on the final goal. Not lose it in a good way, like I blow the final goal.
Oh.
It was 4-1.
Yeah.
And it was the guy's first ever goal. I actually have it.
Okay.
I wonder if this is good radio, but this is me completely flubbing the last call because you can imagine it's my 3rd broadcast
in 3 days.
in less than 72 hours. I'm sick as a dog.
Yep.
I'm basically what I'm doing that last 4th quarter. Here's a Winston Oziri goal. I feel horrible for him because I completely flub it. Recovered by the penalty taker and put in to make it 3-1. And now on the counterattack, the Bison come. Is there another? It's an excellent run. And now Winston Oziri gets the finish. I don't know what I was trying to say. And I felt awful, but you know that's broadcasting.
Yeah.
You know how it is. That's broadcasting.
That's the part that you can't go back and edit it. So it is what it is what it is. We had the one at Jersey Shore on Friday where I forgot the name of one of the greatest NFL head coaches of all time. Said Tom Lombardi live on a broadcast, and for like a solid 10 seconds in my head was like, that's not right. I know that's not right. What's the name of it? I know. And then you, I think, were the one who said who got it and was like Vince Lombardi, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I think you were thinking of Tom Landry and Vince
I was
Lombardi.
thinking
I
of
think
both.
that's
It's
the
just, that was one that for like 10 minutes I was kicking myself like, ugh. So that's the part. You can't edit it, so it just kind of is what it is, right?
Well, at the end of the day, we struggled at the end. We started off strong.
Yeah.
I struggled at the end, but we got it done, just like Lock Haven football.
Yes.
Did
yes.
this Saturday. So
Great
I think we're going to get
transition.
right into it. Yeah. Shout to Tom's candle shop. I was killing you on the Jersey Shore
That was
broadcast.
great.
But anyway, Lock Haven football. 1-0 for the 4th year in a row. 1-0 to start the year, defeating Glenville State 16-13. Was the final score. Bald Eagles scored 16 straight points. They're actually 16-0 up with 0 on the clock in the second quarter.
0 on the clock twice in the second quarter.
And untimed down. I don't know if you even call it a Hail Mary pass when it's 39 yards away. I guess it's fair enough.
They still ran it like it was
Sure.
still that kind of straight up 4 verts, 4 guys run straight down the field and just throw up a prayer. So it kind of was. But yeah, it's the shortest Hail Mary you'd ever see from 39 yards out.
So 39 yards out made it 16-6. They would score in like one of the final plays of the third quarter.
Yep.
Another touchdown pass from Anthony Garrett, 16-13. Glenville would have a couple of chances. Bald Eagles would punt it from the Glenville State 29-35 in that game. And I don't have that in front of me, but that's just I'm pretty sure that's what I remember.
It was something like that. And then Glenville State had the missed field goal there that would have tied the game in the middle of the fourth quarter.
So
the goal line fumble there from the Lock Haven 2-yard line. They fumble it, which it got reviewed, which in the moment, I forgot you could do.
Yeah.
I hadn't realized.
I had no idea until it happened.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Full transparency. So for those trying to get a breakdown, maybe didn't watch the entire game. At that point, it was 16-6 in, I believe, the third quarter.
Yep.
And the quarterback, Anthony Garrett, fumbles at the 1-yard line. And I didn't get a good look at it, but apparently it was a fumble. But you can do instant replay review. Now, I thought that it was only if it was available. But I don't know if this is like a new thing where it's available everywhere. Because we did go through this last year against East Stroudsburg, and the review took 10 minutes, which is ridiculous.
This one was
That's
much
besides
shorter.
the point. This one still took way too long, in my
Agreed.
opinion, but it still happened. But I guess, so they had the new replay review.
Yep.
But what this all talks about, Ryan, is the missed opportunities that the Pioneers had. And I have struggled, Ryan, since the game has ended. I have been thinking about it. I went out to the club with Maddie after the game, And I was there thinking about I swear to God, I was so out of it. I was out there, she's drinking watermelon margaritas, and
Nice.
I'm here with a Diet Coke thinking about,
Nice.
hey, what do you think? Should we be happy about this? Like, I genuinely, because I'm still lost because Glenville State had a missed extra point, a missed field goal from about 33 yards. They missed another. Oh, no. They only had one technical missed field goal, but they missed the extra point, missed the field goal, fumble at the 2-yard line. Should I be happy about this win or not? Because it really felt like this team fell into what they did a lot last season, where they have that insanely strong start, but they didn't turn it into a 60-minute performance. This team had about a 35 to 25-minute performance, but it was enough for a win. I think it's one of those where they have a lot to work on. They're just happy to get a win from it.
Yeah, and it's a thing where it's week 1. It's a lot of new guys on a roster, so you can kind of chalk some of the sloppiness to it's their first real game action of the season. So a lot of it, a lot of the stuff that didn't look very good, like, for example, the passing game really struggled. And this was a thing that I had with them last year, is that their offense at times makes it look as hard as possible to move down the field. Last year it worked, right? They're the best passing offense in the PSAC by a country mile, so clearly it was working. But there were times where it just felt like it was constantly 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 7. It was never like pick up 20 yards on 2nd down. It was always, you have to get 10 yards, and they managed to get 12 yards. That was kind of the same in this game for a lot of it. But, again, I think you can chalk most of it up to it's week 1. It's a lot of these guys, their first time playing as a unit together, like specifically with the passing offense. You have 6 new pass catchers, basically. It's hard to figure that out in practice. It's hard to figure that stuff out in preseason. It's, you kind of have to get that game action to get those things sorted out. So whether you're not ecstatic about the win, but at the end of the day, they're 1-0, and that's what matters.
So after we had basically our general overview there, this is still our first time doing this podcast, and I'm not used to talking about one game for long. So I think the best way to go about this is just have talking points that I thought of. Yeah. Now, I saw your article on the Record Online. I clicked on it to get so you could get the link view, and then I exited out because I didn't want to know your thoughts until the podcast.
Okay.
I gave you the view. But
I appreciate
let me tell you the first thing that stood out to me that I didn't realize until after the game. 1 sack, 2 quarterback hurries in that game, forced by that offensive line. It's the same offensive line, Ryan, that we were so scared about.
Yes.
The same offensive line that featured a lot of newcomers. I mean, the entire offensive line were basically newcomers at that point. 1 sack. And that 1 sack, I mean, it was a strip sack, but Ostrowski held onto that ball for about 5 or 6 seconds. Yeah. It was a long sack from my view. Incredibly impressed. I'm gonna hold off on calling it a good offensive line until they do it against a PSAC team.
That's the big
But against a Mountain East Conference team, incredible job by the O-line for me. That was the big thing to take out of this game.
So I do for the Express, I do my 5 takeaways of the game. My third one was offensive line silenced the doubters. Because you're right, and especially there were some times in the past game where there was some free rushers coming out, and Ostrowski was able to get the ball out on time, specifically from the tackle spots. But for the most part, and especially in the run game, they were really good. I went back and I was watching some of the game. There were some really wide open run lanes that line forced. Christian Bundra had a really great game. I saw there was a photo of him getting laying on top of a Pioneers defender. And speaking of the offensive line, shout out to whom I assume is a listener of the show, Demir Green, because after the game,
big assumption to assume.
Well, because after the game, when we were doing interviews, he came up to me and he said that he basically, I'm paraphrasing here, said something along the lines of, "You guys need to talk to the offensive line because we heard that you were doubting them."
Oh, no way!
So
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh my goodness!
So I don't know if he heard it through here, or how they got wind that I was in some way having some doubts about the offensive line, but I heard it I got some chewed out by Demir a little bit there, which is all in good fun.
Listen,
I loved it. I loved it. It was
fair.
great.
Listen, we are not athletes. We were not college athletes. I'm not. I wasn't. You were not.
No.
As far as I'm concerned, everything is fair game.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a weird position for me as a broadcaster because I am usually just the unbiased guy in the booth that describes the action. Now I'm actually giving opinions. Now I'm not a hot take machine. I'm not trying to get aggregated for clicks here, but all's fair. If they take an upset with something I say, I have to eat my words. And the offensive line absolutely ate my words today. In that game on Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a thing of where we were like,
well, I'm never
it's not like, oh, they're not good. It's that, like, we didn't know.
They're unproven.
We didn't know. And now, again, to your point, I would like to see it versus a PSAC opponent. Last year, after the first game against Glenville, I said that they were going to have the best running attack in the PSAC. They did not last year, so I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit and say I'm going to wait to see it against. I want to see it in week 2 with this offensive line. But again, I got to give them credit where credit's due. They played really well.
So, Saturday. I keep wanting to say yesterday. Saturday, Lock Haven as a team averaged 5.5 yards a carry.
Yes.
Do you know what they averaged last year against Glenville State?
Last year against Glenville State.
How many yards a carry?
Ooh, I know they had over 200 yards in that game as well on the ground. I'm going to say 4.8.
5.5 yards a carry.
Okay.
So they averaged the same yards a carry as Glenville State last season, which is why I'm still on the let's see them do it against an IUP who are very good. And we're going to talk about the IUP game soon, but I want to be able to discuss everything about Glenville State first because, it happened 2 days ago from our view.
Still very fresh in the memory.
Yeah, offensive line's a big one. The second one, and you kind of already brought it up about a lot of the third downs, 54% on third downs.
Yep.
5th in the PSAC right now on 54%. And I think the offensive passing game is going to take a lot of adjustment because of all the newcomers. Yep. And that kind of leads into another point that I thought of, which is what happened with the passing game, can it be improved? Because Jackson Ostrowski had 190 passing yards. That's the least amount he's ever had as a Lock Haven Bald Eagle.
Well, he also struggled. He also struggled last year as well against Glenville State. Glenville State was not his best game a year ago. And in this one, he had the interception, he had the fumble. But on third down, when they needed him to make big throws, a lot of the time he found the open guy. And he really impressed me with his field vision in that game because there was 2 or 3 times that I can remember where he was going from read to read and ended up checking down to the running back. And Ezekiel Johnson, a lot of the time, ended up picking up the first down for them. But, they struggled last time against Glenville State as well. And it's hard when he's throwing to a brand-new unit. These are guys that, except for 1 or 2, he's never thrown to in a live game before. Darrell Caesar had never caught a pass from Ostrowski until yesterday, or maybe he got 1 last year before that game. Popovich got hurt early in the year, so he didn't get a lot of time to build chemistry with Ostrowski last year. So I think it'll be okay. I still think that there's going to be some time to where they have to adjust to not having Tyre Young on that team. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times last year, and I think we, didn't really look at it that way at the time, he bailed out that offense sometimes, where it was kind of it's 3rd and 12.
A lot of those jump balls. I can recall a couple of those catches against Shepherd where he would just kind of high point it above 2 defender like that.
And it was a thing of where it was kind of just, a throw downfield and hope he gets it, and a lot of times he ended up getting it. So far, you don't really have a guy that can do that. They need to be more methodical with guys getting more open than they were last year, and there were some open receivers in that game against Glenville State, but I think the pass game will be fine. I think it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks before this unit kind of really gels together.
I think the passing game was at its best when they incorporated the tight ends.
Yes.
I think Jaden Huntington, it's so tough to replace someone like Chris Hicks, who's I would call a Haven legend. Someone who started
in
first
my article.
4 years.
That's in my article. I said he was him, Quan,
Look
and
at us
Tyre,
on the
3
same
Haven legends.
Look at us on the same wavelength there. But I think Huntington is a worthy replacement. 3 catches, 44 yards. But Darrell Caesar is WR1 right now.
Yes.
Darrell is the guy that creates more separation from my view than any other receiver.
Yeah.
I think Popovich and Roberts, to his credit as well, and maybe I'd even throw Mekhi Watson in that mix as someone who's going to give you contested catches.
Yeah.
But if you need a big play guy, I would say unlike last season where you had guys that were pure speed all across the field, I think Darrell is your deep ball threat, and I think the rest of the receivers are going to be more in that 5 to 10 yard pass range.
And Darrell deserves a lot of credit for last game because his freshman season, he appeared in about 4 games. He really struggled at getting open a lot of the time. Like, there were some ones where he was
he
open.
didn't have a lot of opportunities.
No, he didn't.
That's the other thing.
And that was
because you have
the
so
coaching.
many receivers that were stacked. He had
Yes.
so limited opportunities. Like, I can recall the game against Kutztown was probably the game where they really took the brakes off him,
Yep.
and he only got a catch out of it.
Yeah.
But that was also the most we've seen him against one of the best teams in college football last year.
True.
So you put an asterisk on it. You always thought, for me at least, not to interrupt you, I apologize.
No, you're good.
But I was always a fan of attempting to give Caesar as much of a, an introduction as possible. With 7 one-possession games, you can't really do that. So you're kind of throwing – I mean, he was thrown into the frying pan on Saturday.
Yeah.
4 catches, 63 yards. I mean, that means something. I know a majority of those were in the first half, but I think that's when – I mean, that's obviously when the offense was clicking. For the offense to click, I think that Caesar and Huntington are going to be the main targets this year for the passing game.
Yeah, they're going to have to be. And again, going back to Caesar, he really impressed me on Saturday. Like, he got himself open a lot. It was a lot of – he had really good route running that got him open and kind of gave Ostrowski a bailout option when he needed it. Huntington as well. Huntington did more of his damage after the catch. He was kind of getting catches about 2 or 3 yards off the line of scrimmage and making the most of them. The one who I really thought we would see more of is Mekhi Watson. He got some snaps, but he only got 1 target. He did end up getting a catch, but it was for no yards. It was for a gain of 0. But I thought we would see more of him. We didn't. In total, they had –
I mean, he didn't have – I think
they had
off
a
the
bunch
top of my
pass
head,
catchers.
I think he might have only had 1 target. 1 or 2
I think it was that
at
one.
the most.
And Ezekiel Johnson out of the backfield also really impressed me. He had
can
3
we talk?
for 50 yards.
That was the last thing I wanted to talk about before we moved on to the defense.
Yep.
Because we brought up the O-line, we brought up Demir. Well, we didn't really bring up Demir Green enough, so let's
Let's
in
do the
both
running back
backs.
room. Yeah.
3 tailbacks getting carries: Hathcock, Johnson, and Green. I mean, Green and Johnson. I am not ready to put the elite tag on anything after week 1. That is an overreaction. But Green and Johnson offers you probably one of the best duos in recent memory at tailback, with the exception, of course, of Chris Collier and Mr. Hogue from a couple years back, but you're comparing them to an NFL running back. That's not fair. Green and Johnson could be one of, I'm not saying one of the best running back duos in all of the PSAC, and I'm saying that because one of the best in IUP is coming to town next week, so that is going to be a real litmus test for them. But Green, best rushing touchdown I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That was insane.
But the key to this game was Ezekiel Johnson playing the closing pitcher role and getting those first downs. It's Green and Johnson that won that game more than anyone else in that second half, other than, of course, the defense. Yeah,
Green and, because the thing with Green and Johnson is they're 2 different kind of backs that somehow also give you the same thing. Because the problem Lockhaven had last year was they didn't really have a guy that could get them explosive runs from up the middle. KJ Howard was one who, he was really short. He was a converted receiver. And Lockhaven kept trying to run him up the middle because that's the offense they want to run. They're a zone power run scheme, meaning we're going to block up the middle, we're going to run up the middle, a lot of inside zone, and that's how we're going to get the chunk yards. Howard couldn't do that for them last year. He was just too small. He got beat up last year because he'd get 3 yards down the field and he'd get popped by some linebacker, and he couldn't make the yards after contact that Green could, and that's why Green ended up getting the starting job to end the year. Johnson can do that, but Johnson's also really good out of the backfield, which is what they also didn't have last year, was a true pass catcher out of the backfield. Like I said, 3 catches for 50 yards, and in that fourth quarter, he was the one that was getting the first downs for them. It was, 3rd and 5, and he picked up the big first down to end the game, to run out the rest of the clock. Those 2 really impressed me. Demir, like you said, that 13-yard run, he jumps over 2 guys, immediately lands and powers through another. I said it on the broadcast, it really reminded me of that Saquon Barkley touchdown against Iowa where he jumped over the guy, and as soon as he landed, there was another guy there, and he ran through him. Green did nearly the same thing. He was really impressive. I said he was the player of the game. Afterward, to which I heard there were some mixed opinions up in the booth between him or Johnson.
It was funny because Newfie, Namely, who's
Yes.
a women's basketball player who is helping with stats, she was like to that because she thought the defense deserved a little bit more credit, which is a good
fair.
transition.
Yes,
to
the
talk
defense.
about the defense. One last note, 5 seconds because we only have an hour, less than an hour to do this. Ezekiel, I only want Ezekiel doing delayed handoffs. Trust Demir to plow from the snap wherever he winds up going. Ezekiel has that quick twitch to get the delayed handoffs. I want Demir, just tell him what gap to go in and trust the offensive line to do because I think this offensive line is capable.
And shout out to Demir, quickly, just to add on to the end of this, when I interviewed him after the game, now we can't confirm this because I was not on the sideline. According to him, he told people he was going to jump over them. After that first touchdown, his quote was, I told my teammates I'm going to jump. They're scared to tackle me. I'm going to jump over them. We'll give him credit. He jumped over 2 of them.
I can't believe that happened.
By the way, such a great interview. Demir, he was such a good interview after the game. He was great.
I mean, great story. Keystone College,
Yep.
D3 to D2, had to really earn his way. I mean, he wound up beating out a Division I transfer at
Last
starting
year,
tailback, and beating out, technically 2 if you count Mr. Hogue,
Yeah.
the Alabama halfback. But
Also, shout out Owen Lukens. Demir's his guy all the way. Hey,
Really?
We heard about it last year. Heard about it this year. Demir's his guy.
defensive side of the ball. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but the defense deserves credit. Got a big turnover. That forced fumble, by the way, from redshirt sophomore Troy Miller. And I think this is something we didn't talk about enough with the secondary. 3 underclassmen.
Yep.
And we're not used to saying that because Jayon Perry and Troy Miller have been in the fold for so long. Rasu wearing Poindexter, the redshirt freshman. I mean, Glenville State were definitely targeting him.
Yeah.
But I thought that Poindexter, from my view, got more comfortable as the game progressed. And in that last drive, I can't recall him allowing even a target there. Bam was obviously the captain, but I think we need to have a little bit of patience with this secondary. It's clear that Michael Durasmo, defensive coordinator, is going for the guys that he knows.
Yes.
In terms of that, Murworth came off the bench. A.J. Anderson, the Temple transfer, came off the bench. But I think just in general that this secondary needs a little bit more time. I think we were very quick to put that this was the best part of the defense label on. I think it's clear that the linebackers were that distinction.
Yeah.
I think by the end of the season, though, it could be different.
Well, and the coaching staff themselves had a lot of confidence in the secondary. And talking with Coach Battaglia after the game, they weren't really worried about the secondary's performance. Yes, they gave up nearly 300 yards, but according to him, that was all kind of part of their game plan. They knew Glenville State wanted to be this kind of home run offense. So the way they were scheming it was they were more comfortable. And you saw it a lot, them giving up those 5-yard catches that turned into 15-yard gains. That was because they were trying to prevent the 30 or 40-yard gains that on film they saw Glenville State was really wanting to go for. So they weren't worried about the secondary after the game. It was kind of just that was part of their game plan. They knew they were going to concede yards. But when it really counted, a lot of the times when it really counted, and a lot of time when they did go for those deep balls, that secondary did a really good job at knocking those balls out of the air and not committing the penalties that they did last year.
Last thing I want to bring up before we put a bow on this game.
Yeah.
And this stunned me more than anything else. Lock Haven had the least amount of penalties, yard-wise, out of anyone in the PSAC in week 1 in terms of penalties.
It
23 penalty yards. They had 5 total penalties.
I'll tell you what, it didn't feel like it.
I think Edinburgh, 25 penalty yards. They are first in the PSAC in penalty yards per game in a good way, the least amount. And you look back at it, because I was looking at discipline, it didn't feel like it, but then you realize, wait a minute. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
15 of those came, or not 15, but
10 of them.
10 of those came on the untimed down. You had, I think, a 10-yard holding penalty in the mix there, and then another. Or no, here's what you did. It was 2 10-yard, 2 5-yard offsides.
Yep.
2 false start penalties.
Yep.
That's 20 yards, and I think there was a holding penalty further up the field.
Maybe, yeah.
No personal fouls from what I can remember, and that I think is a huge plus.
And you saw that.
No personal fouls, even though there was definitely extracurriculars for both teams.
Yes.
I think Glenville State was egging them on a little bit, especially that defense. there needs to be serious credit given to this defense because all those penalties that I just brought up, Brian, came on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
That defense, that defense is what won the game, but that defense was more disciplined than I've ever seen them.
Well, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier on 2 or 3 of those Glenville State throws that were 20 or 30 yards down the field. And I mentioned it on the broadcast as well. Their corners did a really good job at not making contact with the receiver until the ball was in the area that it could have been caught. They had that problem a lot last year where teams would just throw the ball up downfield and their corners would just kind of nearly tackle receivers before they could catch the ball, and that's a 15-yard pass interference penalty. There were 3 opportunities in that game that Glenville State took those shots. All 3 of them, they did not interfere with the receiver in any way, which is really hard to do when you're a defensive back because a lot of the time you don't really know where the ball is. You're kind of just guessing on how the receiver reacts to it unless you can turn and locate it in the air in time. But they did a really good job at not committing those mistakes. Obviously, the big exception being the end of half there. And those penalties were a big key for this coaching staff this offseason. When I talked to Coach Battaglia, it was told to me about 4 or 5 times that was the big stressor this offseason, was not being the undisciplined group that they were last year and focusing on not making those mistakes. And like you said, you saw it there on Saturday night.
Okay, we're going to close it out with this. Rating out of 10, what that performance was for Lock Haven. 1 being the worst performance you've ever seen. I don't think I've seen a 1 out of 10 from Lock Haven since I've called their games. Maybe the first half of Shepherd was the only 1 out of 10 last year.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 is the best I've ever seen. I've not seen a 10 out of 10 yet from my view.
No.
I've seen a couple 9s and a couple of 8s. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10 game. I think the start was so good, so solid. If you were just saying the first half up until the Hail Mary, I'd give it an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. The second half is what brings it down. But they got the win. They got it at home. They're 1-0 4th year in a row, so it can't be less than a 5. I don't think you could perform less than a 5 and lose. So I'd give it about a 6 out of 10 in terms of the overall performance.
This might be the first time ever that I am a little bit more negative than you. I'd give it a 5.
Okay.
Only because that game, there was a lot of points at that game where you felt like Lock Haven could have and maybe should have lost that game. Like Glenville State hurt themselves in a lot of ways too. So I'll be a little more critical. I'll say a 5, but at the end of the day, whether it be a 5, whether it be a 10, the only number that matters is 1, and they're 1-0. And that's all. And for them, that's all they're going to care about. And shout out also to Coach Battaglia, his first ever win as a head coach.
Oh, yeah, Joe Battaglia. By the way, what a difference in philosophy compared to Dan Mulrooney. I mean, Battaglia played a very conservative. I mean, punting from the opponent's 29, that's a real.
They did not do that last year.
That's a real, I'm going to trust this defense. They wound up getting a missed field goal, Glenville State, the next drive. Then they punted again from the 35. They got the ball back to ice the game. That took, it was so conservative, it took guts to do it.
Yeah, that was, I didn't even think about that, but those punts were 100% times that they would have went for it last year. And they didn't.
No doubt.
I didn't even think about that until right now.
Because they were 4th and less than 10, I think, on both of them.
Yes, they were 4th and I want to say like
7, 8, something like that.
Yeah, and those last year, that would have been no question they were going. I didn't even think about that till you said that right now. That is an entirely different change from what they would have done a year ago. And hey, it worked. Sometimes playing the field position game is the best thing you can do.
Also, shout out to Caden Bauer making his first field goal.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
I mean? Shout out to him.
Especially after the missed extra point, which wasn't even really his fault. He did make the first one.
Yeah,
and then it got backed up.
Sides,
So that's kind of a thing of where it sucks to have to try to make it twice. But no, that's a hard 23-yard field goal to make from those like short those hashes because they're really wide out on the far side. It's hard to make. So shout out to him.
All right, before we talk about IUP, make sure if you're tuning in on YouTube to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel after football season. We've gained, putting me on the spot here. We've gained a lot of subscribers.
Yes.
We've gained a very fair amount. I actually don't have the. Oh, that's terrible for me.
The old classic. I can't remember the number. It's a lot of them.
We're like less than 200 away. So please subscribe. If you're listening on the radio, thank you for tuning in. Coming up on the Bear Country Sports Network later this week, Friday Night Football, Jersey Shore on the road against Shamokin. It's the game of the season. It's the game they had highlighted throughout. Jersey Shore have looked really good, especially in the first half of games, but this is going to be their biggest test against a Shamokin team that doesn't look like they lost a step from last year's district title team. Coverage starts 6:30, kickoff at 7. And on Saturday, you're here for Lock Haven Sports. How about this one? Lock Haven football on the road at IUP. Big game. We're about to discuss it. I think the game starts at 4 o'clock,
Yep.
but double check that. The game starts at 4. Pre-game starts at 2:30 with this show. So, hey, if you want to rewatch it, why not rewatch it on the radio at 2:30? 3:30 is when the pre-game show starts for the 4 o'clock kickoff, all on the Bear Country Sports Network. All right, IUP. So here's the perfect way that I can describe the Crimson Hawks and the Bald Eagles, two very long programs, of course, that started playing each other in the 1920s. I watched a documentary on the Seattle Mariners.
Okay.
Their rise in the 1990s. I don't know if you're a big baseball guy, but
I'm not a big guy, but I do love baseball. So
they made the playoffs in the 95 ALDS against the New York Yankees. And at the time, the Mariners were about to sell the team, the owners. If they had sold the team, they were going to move out of Seattle,
Yes.
basically. It was a very desperate moment.
Now,
if the Mariners had...
Is this a documentary that you have seen on YouTube?
John
perhaps?
Boyce, yes,
John
it's
Boyce.
John Boyce.
So I've also seen this documentary. One of my favorite. Like, John Boyce is great. One of my favorite. Anyway, continue. But I was wondering where you got it from.
You might remember a quote that the New York Yankees, describing the two teams, the Yankees partied with Marilyn Monroe and hung out with the Rat Pack, and the Seattle Mariners made toilet jello and made fart jokes because they were funny. And I think that's the best way to describe the difference in tradition between IUP and Lock Haven, because the Crimson Hawks are this historically incredible team, 22-time PSAC West champion, 5-time outright PSAC champion last 3 years ago, 2-time NCAA championship finalist in the 90s in 1990 and 1993. You've got the Signetti family that comes a part of it as well. That is royalty. This, when you think of one of the most prestigious programs in Division II, IUP is at the top of that list.
Yes.
And then you have Lock Haven, who is not that. In terms of a historical, I'm just calling it like it is.
No,
you know,
yeah.
It is like that. And the record overall, 15-60-3. Lock Haven is all-time against IUP. The Bald Eagles have lost 36 straight games against the Crimson Hawks. Their last win was in the Reagan administration,
Wow.
1981. They have only won, the Bald Eagles, 3 times at IUP. The last time that they have won at IUP, October 1961.
Wow.
Was the last time that the Bald Eagles drove into Indiana and drove back with a win. And this is also important because it's going to be the first of many times these two teams face each other, because the Bald Eagles are in the PSAC West next season. So this IUP, this Cal PA duo that they've played last year and this year, they're going to have to get used to them. We're going to have to get used to seeing the Crimson Hawks often. And the Bald Eagles, I'm sure, are sick of getting used to losing to this IUP team all time. And I would even go as far as to make the argument that this is about the closest in talent that these two teams have been in a very long time, because IUP as a program is not as good as they were even a few years ago.
Yeah, and this is a game that for Lock Haven, and you mentioned with IUP, the Signetti family, they also had a rule implemented about them. There was a brief rule in the PSAC because the reason IUP used to be so good was their head coach, who is Kurt Signetti's dad at the time, used to coach with the head. Okay, let me get this right. Used to coach who at the time was the head coach of Florida State. So what would happen was any players that didn't make the roster at Florida State got sent to IUP. So IUP was playing with a bunch of Division I talented, Division I caliber guys.
JV Florida State.
Exactly. It was the guys that couldn't make it at Florida State went to IUP. So the reason why Lock Haven hasn't won many games against them was the talent gap there was massive. And you mentioned it's a lot closer. IUP last year was not the team that they had been in years prior. They're starting 0-1. They lost to ranked Ashland, so certainly not a bad loss. It was a very close loss against a very good Ashland team. But the thing I'm interested about this game, I think, most is, and I talked about this with you last week, it really does not feel like this Lock Haven team has gotten an upset win yet.
Not in this era. Not
No.
in the. I'm putting the Mulrooney era as part of this.
It's the
this
same,
era
yeah.
of football. This era of Lockhaven football is going to be called the Mulrooney Battaglia era.
I'd call it
because
the
it's two of the same.
locked in era.
The
I think.
hashtag locked
Yes.
in era.
Because you're right. Like the coaching staff is nearly identical from last year. It's the same philosophy. It's the same mindset with a few minor tweaks in there. But like you look at last year, the teams that they beat were Millersville, who was not good. They beat Shippensburg, who was not good. They beat Gannon, who was not good. They beat Glenville State, who was not good. And
In comparison to PSAC teams.
Yes,
I mean, they finished second in the MEC.
yes, but
Glenville State.
it's in comparison to a PSAC school, there is a difference in talent there. So they haven't gotten that what feels like a major upset win yet. They got close last year. They lost to
so many times they got close.
They lost to IUP and Cal by a combined 10 points, and those are two teams that finished over 500. Cal made the PSAC final. But they haven't been able to get that upset win yet. If they're able to walk in to Indiana, walk on to Kurt Signetti Field, and walk away with a win, I think that would be the win of this program so far, but it is not going to be an easy one to go get.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to go too far off topic here. What's the best win that they've had in this era?
Probably Millersville last year because it was the first home win in years.
First conference home win.
First conference home win in years. So I would probably.
Or do you mean
one.
2 years ago?
No, that was
when
last
they were
year.
on the road.
That was last year.
Well, they won 5 games in 2023 too.
Yeah, but I don't think any of them were at home. They were all on the road, if I'm not.
You're right.
Cause
oh, my goodness.
Because
yeah,
I
you're right,
remember
you're
my
right.
dad would come to some games
But as
a few
far
years
as
ago, and they
talent,
never won there.
But as far as talent's concerned, though, was it Bloomsburg last year? Is that the best team that
Maybe.
they've beaten?
Maybe
like Millersville 2 years ago on the road, because I thought you brought up the 2 years ago one because they had a pretty solid team that just couldn't get a lot of wins, but that's the one that comes to mind.
It's probably Bloomsburg last year because that was one, and that might be one that people said, oh, it's an upset win. Bloomsburg finished higher than Lockhaven in the standings. It really wasn't. Those were two teams that were pretty dead even, and you saw it on the field. So when I'm saying upset, I mean this team is clearly more talented than Lockhaven, and yet Lockhaven still finds a way to win. A real USF Florida, if we're going to be keeping topical. A real like that kind of thing where Lockhaven walks in, they're a big underdog, you don't expect them to win, and they walk out with a win. We haven't seen that from this group yet. Their best chance to do it is this Saturday at IUP.
You know, there's a term, a soccer term. Manchester City was always the little brother to Manchester United.
Yes.
Before Manchester City got a lot of investment from a Saudi Arabian owner. But for a while they were good, but never good enough to beat United. Their nickname was the Noisy Neighbors. And I think that's the best way to describe Lockhaven in the football context last year's. They are the very noisy neighbors in the context of the PSAC. And they are waiting for their Sergio Aguero 94th minute winner they're waiting for their big moment to properly, explode into more than just a noisy neighbor team. And who knows if it's going to happen this year? Who knows if it's going to happen this Saturday? But Glenville State proved that they still have talent and they know how to win, even when things aren't going their way. And I think that's a mentality that they're going to need against a Crimson Hawk team that are certainly expecting a win. I don't want to go overconfident, but this is a team that they're expecting this game to be their get back. They lost to Ashland. We're going to talk about where IUP comes from. They lost to Ashland 13-9. They were up 9-0 at the half. IUP conceded the rest of the points. It was the first time IUP has ever lost to Ashland in 6 meetings. Here's the big one: -15 total yards on the ground for the Crimson Hawks, and I'm going to highlight that. Because Glenville State averaged less than 2 yards a carry in the first half. I think they ended up with less than 3 yards a carry in the entire game, Ryan. I think if this front seven can continue to cause a lot of struggles, I should say, in the ground game, I think that's where they need to build around. They need to build around the ability to stop the run in this game.
Yeah, and obviously those -15 rushing yards come from their quarterback getting sacked. Matthew Reeve getting sacked 5 times in that game. 3.5 of them coming from one player, Michael Shemek. But
I'm pretty sure their starting tailback. Yeah, the starting tailback averaged 1.8 a carry.
I was going to say,
it's
and
not like
that's what I was transitioning into was it's not like their runner had 50 yards, but they lost all of it in sack numbers. They ran their leading running back, Tavion Banks, had 12 rushes for only 23 yards. I mean, they got dominated up front for that entire game. I was watching some of it when that game was going on, as my dad was tuned into the Cal game, I was tuned into IUP and Ashland. IUP got dominated a lot up front in that game, and that's where Lock Haven's going to have to play well, because this IUP team, again, it's not what they used to be, but like you mentioned, they're still coming in expecting, it's they want this to be their home win of the year. They want this, and Lock Haven is not what they used to be. It's not a look at the schedule, you see that Bald Eagle logo, and you just write a W next to it and you move on. It is not that kind of team anymore. IUP saw it last year, and they barely beat Lock Haven at on the road there. But this IUP team is expecting a win, but if they want to win, they have to be better up front.
IUP's defense, though, still very good.
Yes.
All PSAC. Cornerback Kalen Frazier, a senior, he had an interception actually in that game against Ashland. Noah Johnston, who I'm surprised didn't get an all PSAC nod last season. I mean, he was great against Lock Haven last year. I can recall he's their leading tackler, if memory serves. Big weakness, I wouldn't call it even a big weakness, but the focal point, inexperience at linebacker. Redshirt freshman at the mic, redshirt sophomore is one, and then a senior who has less than 22 tackles coming into this season in the linebacking core. I remember you bringing up during that Lock Haven game a lack of 5 to 10 yard passes.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the time where they need to start doing that.
It's going to be that, or that's also going to be if this Haven line can hold up like they did against Glenville State. If they can get through that IUP first unit, the running game is going to have a field day, because I think you're right. They're going to be able to kind of take advantage of those linebackers. But I do think it's going to have to be the passing, which is going to be an IUP, because that IUP front four is really good, and it's going to put a lot of test and a lot of strain on this young Haven line. But you look at this, I mean, this is going to be a defensive game. It's going to be like what Glenville State was, where you might see a final score of 20-10 or, 13-17 or something like that. Like, it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring defensive football game, because the defenses are the two strongest points of these teams.
Very quick before we get to predictions, because we're actually running out of time already.
Yes, we are.
Time flies when we do this. I tell you, this needs to be a 2-hour thing.
I'd love it. Time flies when you're having fun.
Sponsors, call the radio station. We'll do 2 hours if you pay for it. So their wide receiver core is elite. I think that's very fair to say. A Pitt transfer is the second choice receiver. An all PSEC West nod for their third wide receiver, although it was a returner, but still. But their meat and potatoes is a Harlan Hill nominee, Maurice Massey, had 4 catches for $110. The graduate out of Southeast Louisiana and Missouri, so he's a Division I guy. Tight end who didn't have a catches from Division I Temple. And the quarterback is a Division III all-conference quarterback.
Yeah.
So from what this stands out to me is that this secondary is going to make or break this game.
You're seeing the difference in recruiting dollars between IUP and what Lock Haven, because you see the guy from Missouri, you're like, what? Yeah, so it's there's the difference in scholarships right there. But no, this IUP wide receiver room and their passing attack in general is really good. I mean, they threw for 221 yards against a really good Ashland team. Again, they're ranked 25th in the nation at the time they played. If Lock Haven is confident in this secondary, this secondary is gonna have to have the game of their lives next week, because this IUP receiving group is no joke. But the big thing, their quarterback did throw 3 interceptions against Ashland as well. So turnovers, and that's kind of the buzzword when you're talking about how's a team going to get an upset. The word turnovers is kind of plastered all over the place. Of if they can force mistakes and they cannot make mistakes, that's going to have to be their path to victory. They're going to have to be Lock Haven is going to have to be buttoned up on the offensive side, because they're going to have to force some turnovers in this game.
All right, score prediction to close it out. We were both pretty accurate. We said Lock Haven in a one-possession win
Yes, we did.
Against Glenville State. I'm going to go 28-17 IUP wins. Lock Haven shows a lot of respect going into Cal. That's my prediction.
I think this is going to be an ugly football game. I think I'd be surprised if both teams break over 21 points. I'm going to say it's 20. I get weird. I'll say it's 20-18, but I agree that IUP wins.
Another close one. You think?
Now, if Lock Haven wins, it's going to look bad because we both just picked IUP to win, and we are a Lock Haven podcast, but
I mean, we're
gotta
be
be real.
honest first.
Yeah.
I think they'll play respectful. I think we both
agree
with that.
I don't think this is one that either team's going to blow out the other or whatever. I think this is going to be a good game. Again, this is a far cry from the Haven teams of old that would get blown out in games like this, but it's going to be a really hard game for them to win. I hope they do. I will be up and down, jumping around, cheering if they do win, but it's going to be a hard one.
Ryan States, I'm Nicholas Severini. Friday night Jersey Shore football, Saturday Lock Haven football. You've been tuning in to the Haven Nation Show.